Hey, what's up? It's me. Let's talk about Lorraine Hansberry, shall we? The icon, the moment, Lorraine, honey. Okay, let's maximize me so you can see me. Hey, how are you? How are you? I never ask, how are you feeling? Everything okay? Doing well? All right. Lorraine Vivian Hansberry, honey, born May 19th, 1930, and had done died child on January 12th, 19, whatever this number is, 65, was a playwright and an author. She she was the first African American female author to have a play performed on Broadway, honey, A Raisin in the Sun. Her best work, the play A Raisin in the Sun, highlights the lives of Black Americans living under racial segregation in Chicago. The title of the play was taken from the poem Harlem by our mother, Langston Hughes. If you don't know our mother, let me put them at the bottom, honey, so we can see. Our mother, Mother Hughes, honey. Mother James Mercer Langston Hughes. Girl. The poem was what happens to a dream deferred. The line in the poem was what happens to a dream deferred. Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? And the answer is yes. At the age of 29, she won the New York Drama Critics Circle Award, making her the first African-American dramatist and the fifth woman and the youngest playwright to do so. Hansberry's family has struggled against segregation, challenging a restrictive covenant in the 1940 U.S. Supreme Court case, Hansberry versus Lee, honey. And you can look it up. After she had moved to New York City, Hansberry worked at the Pan-Africanist newspaper, Freedom, which is it was a monthly newspaper focused on African American issues, published between 50 and 55, child. You can look it up. Where she dealt with other intellectuals such as Paul Robeson, that's him right there, and W.E.B. Du Bois, honey, or Boyce. They always say Du Bois, but I feel like it's Du Bois. Much of her work during this time concerned the African struggles for liberation and their impact on the world. Hansberry's writings also discussed her lesbianism, honey. We know our sister was a good lesbian child, and the oppression of homosexuality. All right. And you can look up both of those things if you want to, child. Lesbianism has an article, and homosexuality also has an article. She had died child of pancreatic cancer. I'm not gonna hover over it because whenever you hover over an illness, it shows you the nastiest picture possible. At the age of 34, Hansberry inspired the Nina Simone song "To Be Young, Gifted, and Black," which the girls still be singing today, whose title line came from Hansberry's autobiographical play, which was called "To Be Young, Gifted, and Black," honey. Lorraine Hansberry, in her own words, because she had to hype herself up, period. Now, early life and family. Lorraine Hansberry was the youngest of 4 children born to Carl Augustus Hansberry, who was an American real estate broker and political activist, like I just told you, and Nanny Louise, honey, born Perry. Her last name was Perry, but then she had married Hansberry. So she went from Perry to Hansberry. A driving school teacher and award committee woman. And they didn't let women drive back in the day, honey. So this is iconic within it, in and of itself, for her to have been a driving school teacher. In 1938, her father had bought a house in the Washington Park subdivision. Did I press record? I did. I got nervous. I was like, oh, let me triple check. Okay. I was like, girl, I don't remember pressing record. And what if I was doing all this talking? Anyway, I got nervous. In 1938, her father bought a house in the Washington Park subdivision of the South Side of Chicago, which we all know inspired the play, incurring the wrath of some of their white neighbors. You know the whites. You know how they are. We've all seen I was going to say Handmaid's Tale. I've never seen that a day in my life. We've all seen Lovecraft Country, how them whites was treating them folk. The latter's legal effort to force the Hansberry's family out of family out, culminated in the U.S. Supreme Court decision Hansberry v. Lee, which I already had done told you about. You can look it up if you want to. In 1940, the restrictive covenant was ruled contestable, though not inherently invalid. These covenants were eventually ruled unconstitutional in Shelley v. Kramer, which is another case that you can look up, honey. Back in 1948 is when that had done happened. Carl Hansberry, the daddy, was also a supporter of the Urban League and the NAACP, honey, the National Association for the Advancement of the Colored People, in Chicago. Both Hansberrys were active in the Chicago Republican Party, which, girl, maybe this was before the switch, because you know the Republicans were the Democrats and the Democrats were the Republicans, and then they had done switched. So maybe this was before then. Maybe. Carl died in 1946 when Lorraine was 15 years old, y'all. And she had done said American racism helped kill him. The Hansberrys were routinely visited by prominent Black people, including sociology professor Webb Du Bois, honey, poet Langston Hughes, our grandmother Langston, singer, actor, and political activist Paul Robeson, who I done told you about already, and musician, our grandmother, honey, Mother Duke Ellington, Mother Duke, and Olympic gold medalist Jesse Owens, who we all know did all that good running, honey, back in the day. All that good running. Carl Hansberry's brother, honey, William Leo Hansberry, founded the African civilization section of the history department at Howard University. Now, you can look up William Leo if you want to, child. I doubt his Wikipedia is that long, so you can just take a quick little detour when you do your reading. Lorraine was taught, above all, there were two things which were never to be betrayed: the family and the race. Okay? Which is why I believe they had to have been in the Republican Party before the switch. I don't know. I got to figure out when that switch was. Got to figure that out. I'm not going to Google it right now, though. Lorraine Hansberry has many notable relatives, including director and playwright Shawneel Perry. Hunty was one of the first African-American to direct off-Broadway, whose eldest child is named after her. Her grandniece is the actress Tay Hansberry. Her cousin is the flautist, percussionist and composer Aldrich Hansberry. Hansberry was the godmother to Nina Simone's daughter Lisa, who goes by Simone musically. That's her right there. She had done did a little tour with Layla Hathaway and Shaka Khan's daughter. You know, the daughters of the icons had a little tour. It was a cute moment. Educational and political involvement. Hansberry graduated from Betsy Ross Elementary. We know who Betsy is, honey. She had done made the flag in 1944. And from Inglewood, in 1948. She attended the University of Wisconsin-Madison, which I believe is probably in Madison, Wisconsin, I would imagine, where she immediately became politically active with the Communist Party USA, child. She was a commie. And integrated a dormitory, girl. She said, we gonna be Black and white up in this dorm. Hansberry's classmate, Bob Teague, who was an African-American college football star and television news reporter, remembered her as the only girl I knew who could whip together a fresh picket sign with her own hands at a moment's notice for any cause or occasion. She worked on Henry A. Wallace's, who is an American politician, journalist, farmer, and businessman who served as the 33rd Vice President of the United States of the 11th. Y'all can read it, honey. You can read it. She worked on his Progressive Party, which is a left-wing political party, child. You're just right on in here. You can read it, honey. You can go read it. The presidential campaign in 1948, despite her mother's disapproval, which leads me to believe, honey, that her parents were Republicans for real. I know they hated to have that lesbian daughter, honey. She spent the summer of 1949 in Mexico, studying and painting at the University of Guadalajara. Period. Honey, she was an artiste, okay? In 1950, she had done moved, child. She left Madison to pursue her career as a writer in New York City, where she attended the New School. Brand new, honey, fresh. She had done moved to Harlem, where everybody loves to be, honey. It's Side note, why did you girls put a Whole Foods in Harlem? Why are you gentrifying Harlem? And became involved in activist struggles such as the fight against evictions, honey, and we need that fight today. Freedom newspaper and activism. In 1951, Hansberry had done join the staff of the Black newspaper Freedom, like I had told you, edited by Louis E. Burnham. This him right here, honey, this him. And published by Paul Robeson, child, who we have talked about before and after. At Freedom, she worked with Webb Dubois, who, why don't they have a picture of W.E.B.? I mean, I think we all know what he looks like. If you don't, let's go ahead and Google. W.E.B. Du Bois. This him right here, honey. This him. I recognize this picture most. I think where he had looked like the Colonel in the chicken industry. This the one we recognize the most over this way. Anyway, child, whose office was in the same building and other Black Pan-Africanists. At the newspaper, she worked as a subscription clerk, receptionist, typist, and editorial assistant, child, besides writing news articles and editorials. Let me take a sip of this coffee. Hold on. Refreshing. Additionally, she wrote scripts at Freedom, honey. To celebrate the newspaper's first birthday, Hansberry wrote the script for a rally at Rockland Palace, then famous Harlem Hall. It was a then famous Harlem Hall, on the history of the Negro newspaper in America and its fighting role in the struggle for a people's freedom from 1827 to the birth of freedom. Performers in this pageant included Paul Robeson, who we keep talking about, honey. We're not going to stop talking about Paul Robeson, honey. He is all up and through this article, and here he is again. His longtime accompanist, Lawrence Brown, who was an American singer, composer, and pianist, born in Jacksonville, Florida, honey. He did Negro spiritual arrangements. The multidisciplined artist, Asdata Dafora, honey, who was Sierra Leonean and multidisciplinary, honey. That means she played everything, okay? He was one of the first Africans to introduce African drumming music to the United States, child, in the 1930s. He was like, come on over here and feel this beat. And numerous others. The following year, she collaborated with the already produced playwright Alice Childress, who was a playwright and actress, acknowledged as the only African-American woman to have written, produced, and published plays for 4 decades. Okay, get into her. Who also wrote for Freedom on a pageant for its Negro History Festival with Harry Belafonte. We know Harry. Here he is. Sidney Poitier, God rest his soul. He just passed on. Here he is. Douglas Turner Ward. Here he is, honey. American playwright, actor, and director, and theatrical producer war, honey. John O'Killens. Here he is, honey. Fiction writer from Georgia. And that's it. This is her earliest remaining theatrical work. Like Paul Robeson, who we already had done talked about, here he is again. And many Black civil rights activists, Hansberry understood the struggle against white supremacy to be interlinked with the program of the Communist Party. One of her first reports covered the Sojourners for Truth and Justice, honey. That is not Sojourner Truth herself. That is not her. Covened in Washington, D.C. by Mary Church Terrell. This her right here. This right, her right here. She was African-American. I know she don't look it in this picture, but she was Black. But you know, they only took pictures of light-skinned Black folks back in the day, child. She traveled to Georgia to cover the case of Willie McGee, who was an African-American man from Laurel, Mississippi, who was sentenced to death in 1945 and executed on Tuesday, May 8th, 1951 for the alleged lower body assault of a woman in November 2nd of 1945, child. And was inspired to write the poem Lynch Song about the case. Hansberry worked on not only the U.S. civil rights movement, but also global struggles against colonialism and imperialism. Hansberry wrote in support of the Mau Mau uprising, child, down to Kenya, criticizing the mainstream press for its biased coverage. You know how the press loves to do. Hansberry often explained these global struggles in terms of female participants. She was particularly interested in the situation of Egypt, the traditional Islamic cradle of civilization, where women had led one of the most important fights anywhere for the equality of their sex, okay? In 1952, Hansberry attended a peace conference in Montevideo, Uruguay, honey, or Uruguay if you want to be particular, in place of Paul Robeson, who we all know and love, honey. Here he is again, who had been denied travel rights by the State Department. The state said, not you. On June 30th, 1953, Hansberry married some man child, and I don't know why, Robert Nemiroff, who was an American theater producer and songwriter. He was Jewish, child, a publisher, songwriter, and political activist. Hansberry and Nemiroff moved to Greenwich Village, child, right here in New York. The setting of her second Broadway play, The Sign in Sidney Brustein's Window, which you can look up for yourself, child. It had done come out in 1964. Before my mama was even born, I tell you, these women's and men's got to doing stuff for my mama was thought about. On the night before their wedding in 1953, Nemiroff and Hansberry protested against the execution of Julius and Ethel Rothberg, the white people right here, child, who was spying, honey. They was spying. In New York City. The success of the hit pop song Cindy Oh Cindy, co-authored by Nemiroff, enabled Hansberry to start writing full time, honey. Neem was like, honey, we got the money now because Cindy Oh Cindy done popped. Child, it's a song. And yada yada, honey. Yada yada, you can look it up. Although the couple separated in 1957 because Lorraine is a lesbian, or was, God rest her, and divorced in 1962, their professional relationship lasted until Hansberry's death. Hansberry was a closeted lesbian. Now you can go to closeted here, right here, and look at the article, but y'all know what it means. She was secretive about it. Before her marriage, she had written in her personal notebooks about her attraction to women. In 1957, around the time she separated from Nemiroff, Hansberry contacted the Daughters of Bilitis, honey, which is a lesbian group, child. Here they go right here, the first lesbian civil and political rights organization in the United States. The San Francisco-based lesbian rights organization, contributing 2 letters to their magazine, honey, the latter, both of which were published under her initials first, LHN, and then LN. Pointing to these letters as evidence, some gay and lesbian writers credit Hansberry as having been involved in the homophile movement, child, which is child here, you can read it, girl. I don't have time. Or as having been an activist, honey, an activist for gay rights. According to Kevin J. Mumford, however, beyond reading homophile magazines and corresponding with their creators, no evidence has surfaced to support claims that Hansberry was directly involved in the movement for gay and lesbian civil equality, honey. So we don't know. Mumford stated that Hansberry's lesbianism caused her to feel isolated, while a Raisin in the Sun catapulted her to fame. Still, while her impulse to cover evidence of her lesbian desire sprang from other anxieties, y'all be saying anxiety, and I say it too, but it's anxiety, like you're anxious, of respectability and conventions of marriage. Hansberry was well on her way to coming out, honey. She was on her way. She was like, girl, I'm getting tired Near the end of her life, she declared herself committed to this homosexuality thing and vowing to create my life, not just accept it, okay? Before her death, she built a circle of gay and lesbian friends, took several lovers, honey. She took those lovers. Honey, I've taken a lover. Lover is such a weird, anyway. Vacationed in Provincetown, honey, where the gays go, where she enjoyed, in her words, a gathering of the clan, and subscribed to several homophile magazines. In 1964, Hansberry and Nemiroff divorced but continued to work together. Upon his ex-wife's death, Robert had donated all Hansberry's personal and professional effects to the New York Public Library, honey, which is the Library of Public in New York City. In doing so, he blocked access to all materials related to Hansberry's lesbianism. Child, he didn't want that out, meaning that no scholars or biographers had access for more than 50 years. In 2013, Nemiroff's daughter released the restricted materials to Kevin J. Mumford, who explored Hansberry's self-identification in subsequent work. All right, thank you. Success as a playwright. Written and complete. How long is this? Y'all can read this for yourself, honey. She had did Raisin in the Sun. She had got nominated for a Tony. First play by an African American to be released on Broadway. We had told you that already, honey. It premiered. Photographer did an extensive photo shoot, honey, for Vogue magazine, honey. In the apartment, child, right up in here where she had written Raisin. In her award-winning Hansberry biography, Looking for Lorraine, Imani Perry writes that in his gorgeous images, Addie captured her intellectual confidence, amour, and remarkable beauty, honey. Because she was cute. She was cute. Let's go back up here. Isn't she cute? Long story short, child, she was covered, child. She had went to the Delta's convention in Chicago, and she was made an honorary member. Y'all know I don't do sororities, honey. She was set to replace Vinette Carroll right here as the director of the musical Kicks and Company after its tryout at Chicago's McCormick Place, written by Oscar Brown Jr. One of these men, I think that's him right there. I think that's probably him. Where I go? Oh, here it is. It featured an interracial cast, including Lonnie Satin, Nichelle Nichols, child, Uhura from Star Trek, child. Is she still alive? Is Nichelle living? Not my friend Nichelle. We know, yeah, she's living. Okay, so both of the Nichelles I know are living. Wonderful. Wonderful. Viva Lasco. Now, mind you, I'm recording this January 14th, 2020. This video will not be out until March, the second Sunday in March, honey. So she might, we praying and we keeping under the cross that she'll be living at this time. But if she has passed away by this date, the second Sunday in March, I'm sorry. I am so sorry. And we are praying for the family. But if she's still living, we celebrate her life. That's all I can say. Viva Lasco, Al Freeman Jr., who is this man right here, honey. Zabeth Wild and Burgess Meredith, honey, this white man right here, in the role of Mr. Kicks, a satire involving miscegenation, honey, which is the inbreeding of people who are considered to be members of different races. The $400,000 production, child, was co-produced by her husband. Despite a warm reception in Chicago, the show did not make it to Broadway. She had participated in a meeting with Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, honey. We know Bob, God rest his soul, shot in the head, child, down to the hotel, set up by James Baldwin, honey, our grandmother, honey, Miss James. Also in 1963, Hansberry was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. She had underwent 2 operations on June 24th and August 2nd. Neither were successful in removing the cancer. Long story short, you can read the rest of this, child, and we're going to beliefs, honey. She believes that gaining civil rights in the United States and obtaining independence in colonial Africa were 2 sides of the same coin and presented similar challenges for Africans on both sides of the Atlantic. Y'all can read the rest of this, child. James Baldwin, our grandmother, who I just showed you up here, the legend, our grandmother James, who I think we'll be talking about in October, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, October 21st, we'll be talking about James. So stick around. Stick around. Anyway, James had done described Hansberry's meeting, in which Hansberry asked for moral commitment on civil rights from Kennedy. Hansberry stated, "I am not worried about Black men who have done splendidly. It seems to me, all things considered, but I am very worried about the state of the civilization which produced that photograph of the white cop standing on that Negro woman's neck in Birmingham, honey." Because wow. Anyway, child, y'all can read some more of this if you want to, honey. We're running long. We're running long. And after I did that hour-and-a-half video about John Wayne Gacy and was mad, I told myself I will never again suffer like that. Anyway, child, on death. Hansberry had done died of pancreatic cancer. Like I told you before, I'm not going to hover over the link because they usually show a disgusting picture. On January 12, 1965, at the age of 34, she was a child. James Baldwin, our grandmother, believed it is not at all far-fetched to suspect that what she saw contributed to the strain which killed her, for the efforts to which Lorraine was dedicated is more than enough to kill a man. Hansberry's funeral was held in Harlem on January 15th, 1965. Paul Robeson, who we have talked about in great length, honey, over on this article, and SNCC organizer James Foreman, who is somewhere in here, child. He's one of these men, and probably not this woman. Where we go? Okay, gave eulogies. The presiding minister, Eugene Callender, who might be related to Marie, recited messages from Baldwin, and the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., which read, "Her creative ability and her profound grasp of the deep social issues confronting the world today will remain an inspiration to generations yet unborn," which is true, honey, because I was yet unborn, and here I am inspired. The 15th was also Dr. King's birthday, which is tomorrow, because I'm pre-recording. So happy birthday, Dr. King, child. She is buried at Asbury United Methodist Church Cemetery in Croton-on-Hudson, New York. Okay. Martin Luther King loved him a homosexual child. Anyway, not saying he gay, but he was very cool about it. Hansberry's ex-husband, Robert, became the executor for several unfinished manuscripts. He added minor changes to complete the play Le Blanc, with which Julius Lester, this man right here, termed her best work. And he adapted many of her writings into the play To Be Young, Gifted, and Black, which was the longest running off-Broadway play of the 1968-1969 season. It appeared in book form the following year under the title To Be Young, Gifted, and Black. Lorraine Hansberry, in her own words, she left behind an unfinished novel and several other plays, including The Drinking Gourd, honey, which we are to follow, and What Use Are Flowers? What use are they? It's true. It's a good question, Lorraine. With a range of content from slavery to a post-apocalyptic, honey, like RuPaul's Best Friends race, a post-apocalyptic future. I cannot read. Is something wrong with me? Are there any doctors in the house? Am I okay neurologically? Call me back. When Robert, because I'm not pronouncing this no more, donated Hansberry's personal and professional artifacts to the New York Public Library that I already told you was the library that was public in New York. He separated out the lesbian-themed correspondence, diaries, unpublished manuscripts, and full runs of the homophile magazines and restricted them from access to researchers, which, okay, I see why he did. I understand the reason, because like, girl, that was not accepted back in the day. I'm not understanding why he kept them. I don't understand why he kept them, and I don't know why more than 20 years after his death, his daughter, honey, had done released them. I mean, I'm glad that they were released. I'm glad that we know more about our mother Lorraine, honey, our grandmother. I just don't understand the thought process. Whatever. Anyway, child, a musical based on a Raisin in the Sun entitled Raisin had done open up on Broadway with music by Judd Walden, lyrics by Robert Britton, and a book by the husband, honey, Robert, and Charlotte Salzberg. The show ran for more than 2 years and won 2 Tony Awards, honey, including Best Musical. Okay. In 2004, A Raisin in the Sun was revived on Broadway in a production starring that man who owed them people money, that woman who defended Bill Cosby, and our legendary mother who sings down, who played Aretha Franklin's mama in Respect. And if you haven't seen it, what are you doing? Audrey Mcdonald, honey. Sickening. 6 Tony Award winning Audrey Mcdonald, who played Tay Diggs' wife, who was Tay Diggs is weird, on Private Practice, and directed by Kenny Leon. This him right here. Okay, that collar is giving me homosexuality, but I don't know that man. The production won Tony Awards for Best Actress in a Play, for that lady who defended Bill Cosby, and Best Featured Actress in a Play for that lady who was married to Tay Diggs in that show, and received a nomination for Best Revival of a Play. In 2008, the production was adapted for television with the same cast. We saw it. It was on BET that time, winning 2 National Advancement for the Association of Advancement for the Colored People Image Awards. What is my problem? In 2014, the play was revived again, child, on Broadway, starring that man who got that Oscar for shooting up them people in that movie, honey, and had got shot and killed himself, child. Directed by Kenny Leon. It won 3 Tony Awards for Best Revival of a Play, because they had done revive. It's been revived so many times. Best Featured Actress in a Play for that lady who had done played May or June, July in The Secret Life of Bees, and who played Undine, child, in Nurse Ratched. Undine, honey, you're nothing. You're nothing. Oh yeah. If you've never seen Nurse Ratched, you got to watch it at least for Undine. Undine ate it up. Best Direction of a Play by maybe this. Oh no, that's just the face of the. Anyway, honey, it had done won that too. In 1969, which is going farther back in time than we have gone in the legacy, but okay, I feel like they should have put it in chronological. Nina Simone, who had sang that song about the sinner man, honey, and I ran to the devil. He was waiting, I ran to the devil. He was waiting, I ran to the devil. He was waiting all on that day. Yeah, that's my jam. She had done first released a song about Hansberry called To Be Young, Gifted, and Black Child. The title of the song, as I already told you, refers to the autobiography. Which Hansberry first coined when speaking to the winners of a creative writing conference on May 1st, 1964. Y'all can read some more about this, honey. You can read so much more about it, child. The studio recording was released, honey, and the first live recording was also released. It was captured here, and the single reached the top 10 of the R&B charts, even though it's not R&B really at all, but okay, child. In the introduction of the live version, Nina Simone be like, girl, my friend died and I'm upset about it. Patricia, who is her, and Fred McKissick, was an African-American writer, honey, best known for collaborations with his wife, Patricia. So we need to go back over here. She was the author of over 100 books, honey, including Dear America books, A Picture of Freedom, The Diary of Clodie, A Slave Girl Child, Color Me Dark, and a whole bunch of other Black publications, child. Wrote a children's biography of Hansberry, Young, Black, and Determined in 1998. In 1999, Hansberry was posthumously inducted into the Chicago Gay and Lesbian Hall of Fame, child, which I didn't even know there was such a thing. In 2002, scholar Molefi Kete Asante, or Molfi, listed Hansberry in the Biographical Dictionary of 100 Greatest African Americans, which is a book that is in my cart on Amazon. If anybody wants to buy it for me, just holler. The Lorraine Hansberry Theatre of San Francisco, which specializes in original stagings and revivals of African-American theater, is named in her honor. Lincoln University's first-year female dormitory is named Lorraine Hansberry Hall, honey. There's a school in the Bronx called Lorraine Hansberry Academy, and an elementary school in St. Albans, Queens, New York, named after Hansberry as well. On the 80th anniversary of Hansberry's death, Adjoa Ando, who is a British film, television, stage, and radio actress, presented a BBC Radio 4 program entitled Young, Gifted, and Black, because they cannot get off that title. Child, there are some more things, honey. She was inducted into the Legacy Walk, the American Theater Hall of Fame, child, all sorts of beautiful awards and acrimonies. Acclamations. We need to talk about acrimony. Did I do a video about acrimony? Anyway, child, all these posthumous awards and celebrations that she doesn't care about because she's dead. Anyway, here's a list of her works. Toussaint Louverture. Yes, honey. Love to see it. And thank you so much for joining us talking about our lesbian. I was going to say legendary, but lesbian, our legendary lesbian mother, Lorraine Hansberry. Lorraine. Very much not the Lorraine that was going where Ike and had Ike Jr. and then went in the bathroom and shot herself, but did not die and was wheeled off. And Tina Turner was looking at her and she was like, "Why is she here, Ike?" Not that Lorraine. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, all the things that YouTube is saying. I'm gonna do another video. Peace.